Okay, I'm back. Well, it's been a long time since I recorded anything on this old gL650. As you might recall, this was a parts bike that had been sitting for, they figured at least 20 years, maybe more than 20 years. And the parts had been stripped off it. There was no instruments. There was a lot of things. No controls on the right-hand side. A lot of things were missing that I picked up on eBay for it. But we got it all put together, saddlebags painted, gas tank paint. I'm just waiting for the side covers. I got to pick those up in Yuma here in a couple of weeks and paint them, put them on, then I'll be pretty much done. Except for some signal lights. As you can see here, I took the signal lights out of the fairing. They were wired up already, of course, so I use those for signal lights temporarily. They're just zip tied in there. The headlight, it was the original headlight on the XS650 that we made into a bobber, and this headlight was left over and it worked perfectly here, so I put it in there. The horn didn't work, so there's the horn. Pretty loud horn. It works real good. We needed a front tire put on it. It just worked out that I had one that I had put on another bike, and I didn't like it on that bike, but it works good here. Brake lines, you can see we've got the new braided steel brake lines. The old ones were stretching when you'd run the brake lever, and so we put new brake lines on and a new master cylinder, so that helped that out. New air filter in it. Of course, we upholstered the seat and the backrest, so that's all done. What I really wanted to share with everyone here on this today was to do with the temperature gauge pegging out over on the hot side, or almost pegging out. You see this little box here, that's your 7-volt resistor or voltage regulator. There's 3 wires. There's a green, a black, and a yellow. All right, the green is ground, black goes to 12-volt power, and the yellow goes to the gauge itself. Well, what was happening was the ground was poor. I got this information from the CX500 gL650 forum. You can have a bad ground, and what that does is when it calls for current, when you turn the ignition on and get the engine running, it calls for that gauge to come into the circuit, of course. Well, the extra, the voltage that isn't going to ground is coming in the other side apparently. And so when you start the engine up and it runs up to 14 volts off the alternator, that ends up giving you an extra 2 or 3 volts coming out of the thing. So instead of 7 volts, you got 10 volts. And that's not your gauge will not read accurately. It'll run clear up to the hot. So by simply taking that black wire, or that green wire rather, and run a dedicated wire back to the frame, I went right back to the battery. I wanted to make sure that gauge works. I want to know what my temperature is for sure, not guesswork. And so I did that, and now the gauge works perfectly. So hopefully that'll help out some of you guys. What else? Anything else going on? I need to get a new battery for it. The battery is getting pretty old. But other than that, it's ready for the road. In the spring, I'll get a new battery for it, and we'll start riding this bike regularly. So anyway, I thought that I'd share that with you, especially that bit about the temperature gauge. It's just simply make sure you got a real ground. Now, when you test with an ohm meter, it'll show you've got a ground on the original circuitry, but the ground can become weak, corroded somewhere in one of those plug-in connections. You're not getting a good ground. A very simple way to fix that is just run a dedicated ground back to the frame or to the battery. And of course, make sure that your battery ground is real good and solid too. Maybe it starts right there on your bike, but anyway, this fixed it for me. and the gauge works perfectly now, runs right at that step in the middle of the gauge. That's where she stays, and that's you know, the engine runs nice and cool. So anyway, there you go. If you like this video, it's helpful for you, share it around. I'm sure there's others that would appreciate having this information. So we'll see you next time. Hang in there, everyone.